So just to show you some numbers here, just how big this is. If, for example, somebody had one primary home and they were currently paying property tax of $2,550, well, when the child moves in, it goes to 6,000. If the child doesn't move in, 18,000 in this example. But look what happens over the course of 30 years. So normally the parent would have paid $104,000 of property taxes. The child that moves in will pay $245 over 30 years. And the child that doesn't move in, that holds on to the property for 30 years, that is how much more California is going to get in taxes. So
California is pretty happy.
Yeah, right. So this is really good for the state, but it comes at the backs of a lot of working class families, and this is who it really affects. In fact, the ACLU opposed Prop 19 because they said, according to the statistics, more lower income families will be affected by this because even for those children who would move into the home, look at that. I mean, it's still a lot more that they're going to have to pay. Now, the key thing is we can do something about it. If you act fast, I know this sounds like a sales pitch, it's not. But if you act fast, you might. I'm not guaranteeing it. Like I said, we've turned a lot of people away from it. But for some people, the numbers will make sense. It will make sense that, hey, if my child is not moving in, I know for sure I'm not going to sell it. My child is not going to sell it. We could do something about it. We could use the current law rules and start transferring to the children before February so that we're grandfathered in under the old laws.
Let me chime in for a quick second. Lala, I've known you for a long time. It is not like you to be ever, the only time I know you mention things like this is because it's important for people that can really benefit from this. So I know it sounds very salesy. I know you're not trying to do that. The point is, it can have real effects for people that we know, which is why, we're doing this.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's really just the way this whole prop developed. It's really sad to see that you could have done something about it, but you didn't know about it. And after February, you hear people who did it, and then you're like, well, can I do it? No, it's too late, right? So this is just the chance to let people know that if this affects you, and maybe it won't, but if it does affect you and you could do something about it, you should talk to someone who can help you. This is just another example, would say like a rental property. If you're currently paying $2,000 in property tax, it could go up in this example to $9,600 over the course of 30 years. It adds up, right? So a lot of money here that adds up. And so this is the ugly part of this. So the good, the bad, now the ugly. The ugly is, here are a lot of things we don't know. We talked about this, right? When does the child need to, if it's a primary residence, is there a certain date that the child has to move in by? What we know is that the child has to file a claim form saying, within 1 year, I made it my primary residence. But does that mean I have to move in on day 90, day 365?
Right.
They haven't told us. Sanjay, you asked this, what if there's more than one child?
Right.
We don't know. What if that child moves in and later rents it out? Is there a time period that you need to live in there to lock it in? We don't know. So there's a lot of things that we still don't know. The last point is a really important one because of COVID. We're living in a situation where the county recorder's offices have already been backlogged because of COVID. They're 6 to 9 months behind.
Wow.
In LA County, for example. And now you have this rule that says if you file this before February, then you get locked in. Well, what happens if you do all the work, you sign it, you mail it, but the recorder doesn't stamp it until June of next year?
Right.
Well, which date works? Is it, hey, I did it before February, or because you stamped it in after February, which date controls? And so this is a big debate going on right now in the legal field about how do we manage that? Because we already know in some situations with some counties, we're not going to get it recorded before February. So there are some ideas that we have about how to preserve those rights for our clients. Because frankly, I don't think that should be the fault of our clients. That should be the fault of the circumstances. People should not be penalized for doing this and signing it and notarizing it before February, only to be told that it wasn't recorded till months later.
Right.
So what can we do about it? I'm just going to keep this a little bit brief. Really, there's four options. Option one is just do nothing. And again, this is for a lot of people. If you're 55 and over and you might sell your property because you want to take advantage of the good part about Prop 19, then do nothing. You don't need to do anything. If you're not going to sell your property, or let me back up. If you're not going to sell your property and your child is going to move into your primary residence, let's say you only have one child and you know that one child is going to move in. They already live there. Probably not worth doing anything. So there's a group of people who are going to fall under the do nothing option, which is good. I mean, you don't need a lawyer. You don't need to spend in legal fees. You don't have to worry about trying to get things done before February. So that's one option. The second option is to gift the property to the child. The third is to put it in a special kind of trust. And the fourth is to create a special kind of entity, like an LLC, for example.
Okay.
I'm going to go through these rather fast because these are just general things. Everybody's specific situation has to be looked at independently. But
I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second. We are going to post your full video, which is super helpful. So anyone that's curious can find that link. We'll put it into the bio.
Great. So just to recap the do nothing, this is what we were talking about. So if you're going to sell your property tax going up doesn't matter because you're not going to pay the increased property tax because you're going to sell it. If your children are going to sell it, they really don't need to worry about the increase of property tax because they're going to sell it. If your children are going to move into your primary home, perhaps doing nothing is a good option for them.
I'm
Now,
sorry to interrupt you a quick second, though. Let's assume, I'm moving back into my mom's. How do I indicate that I moved in? It's just, how do you show that I'm actually living there?
right. So what we expect to happen is that the county assessors should come up with a new form, which they probably are working on as we speak. And that form will be available probably after February 16th. And it would say, I'm imagining, because it hasn't been released yet, but I'm imagining the form will be part of where you have an option to say that I am now making this my primary residence, or I moved into, I certify under penalty of perjury. I know that I actually live in this home. They might ask for something as simple as, do you live here? Or they might be more specific to have you swear under penalty of perjury that you've moved in. We don't know exactly the details, but it's going to be a form that you're going to have to fill out. And what we know is that you have to file this form within 1 year of the transfer. So if my parent passes away, then within 1 year of the date of their death, that form needs to be filled out in order for you to lock in that low property tax.
Makes sense. Okay, great. Thank you.
Now, the second option is something that a lot of people, has crossed their mind. Well, what if I just give the property to my child right now? What if I just do a deed and I go, here, Sanjay, I'm giving you the property? Because if I give it to you right now under the current law, I could do that. That's not a reassessment, parent-child exclusion. And now it's yours. You get the low property tax because it's your property. So I've locked it in for your lifetime. And so why can't I just do that? So that's a good question. It's easy to do. There's no doubt. That's the easiest solution from a work standpoint. You just have to do a deed. Don't do this yourself, even though it's easy. You still want to go through a lawyer to do that, but very low legal fees. It's cheaper. It's faster. Certainly has advantages, but there's a lot of disadvantages. Number one, the parent is making a gift to the child. When I'm giving you my home, I'm giving you the value of my home. It's like me giving you cash. If the home is worth $1 million, it's like me giving you a gift of $1 million of cash. So I have to file a gift tax return to the IRS. I have to let them know that. Now, I don't have to pay gift tax money. I don't have to pay taxes, but I have to notify the IRS. The parent has a lot of risk. They're going to lose control of the property. Now, Sanjay, you're never going to sell the home while I, the parent, am living there. But a child could do that. A child could sell the property while the parent is still living in the property. So I tell the parents, I go, listen, you're taking on a big risk if you're just going to give it over to your child. You really have to
How much
trust.
do you love your kid? Is that what you're going to ask them?
Right, right. What if they sell the property?
Okay.
Also, what if this is a rental property where the parent needs the income? They live off the rental income. Now, if you're giving the property over to the child, now that belongs to the child. And it's a different situation of how do you get the money from the child, right? Well, the child paid tax on it. So it gets a little complicated there. This is a big disadvantage. If I'm giving my property to my child and they get a divorce or they get sued or they get a creditor going after them and I'm living there, I might be homeless if that person tries to take the property from my child. And what if my child passes away before me? That's a risk. And this last one is a big problem. What if I give the property to my child and now my child wants to sell the property later? They're going to be paying more in capital gain taxes if I gifted it to them. I have an example, but I'm not going to go through this right now. But basically, the idea is if I gift something to my child, they're going to pay more in taxes when they sell it. Whereas if I didn't give it to them and they inherited it after I died, then they would pay less in taxes. It's because of this thing called the step up in basis. So you can watch the video and get more info about it. But the 2 points at the bottom are the main points. That if I gift a home to a child and they sell it after I die, they're going to pay taxes. If I die and they inherit the property and then they sell it, they will get less in tax. They will pay less in taxes because of the step up in basis. Okay. So the point is there's a lot of disadvantages to just giving it to your kid. These last two options are the ones that we're really looking at. And again, it's not for everybody. One option is an irrevocable trust. It's a trust that you cannot change once you create it. It has to be done before February. It is not a living trust. A lot of people go, I already have a living trust. That is not what we're talking about. If you have a living trust, the living trust is not going to do anything to protect you from Prop 19, okay? So this is a different type of trust. It's an irrevocable trust that you would put the property into this type of trust. The beneficiary of the trust would be the children. The trustees would be the parent. You would get a greater amount of asset protection. So all of those risks that we were talking about, what if the child gets sued? What if the child gets a divorce? What if the child tries to sell it? That can't happen here because we're building asset protection in to prevent those things from happening. So it's like making a gift, but you still retain the protection that you would have given up if you gave it to the child. The most important thing is we're trying to lock in the low property tax. So by putting it into this trust, it is our hope, we don't know for sure, we're still tweaking this trust, but it is our hope that this trust will be able to keep the low property tax value for the child. And once the parent dies, there will be step up for the child. That's what we're hoping to achieve. So it's really the best of all worlds. You're locking in the low property tax, you're getting the step up in basis, you get the asset protection, okay? Now, the downsides are if you're going to do a refi, it's going to be difficult with this trust. If the parent wants to keep rental income in their name, that's not going to happen because the beneficiary is going to be the children, okay? So there are some disadvantages to this trust. Again, this is why you need to talk to a lawyer to make sure that in your case it makes sense. And the Board of Equalization, the assessor's office, the state legislature, they're all going to need to give us some more guidance before February on whether this is going to work for people. We think it's going to. The last option, again, I'm not going to go through all of this today, but the last option is to create what's called an LLC or a partnership or a corporation. And this is really good for people who have multiple rentals or if you have a property that's worth more than $2 million of assessed value, this is a good way that we can use the current rules to transfer those properties out so that you lock in the property tax at a low value. What people don't understand, a lot of people don't understand, is that if you have an LLC right now that's owned by the parent and the parent passes away and then it goes to the child, maybe through the living trust, it's going to get reassessed. It's going to get reassessed. So the only way to prevent this is to restructure the LLC in such a way that the child owns 51% and the parent owns, say, 49%. If we structure it that way, then when the parent dies with 49%, it's not going to get reassessed. So there's some complicated rules that go into the entity. Change in control, change of more than 50%. We use these rules to see how we could create the right entity for you so that you don't get a property tax reassessment when the parents die. Okay.
I'm going to interrupt you one last time. So I'm assuming this is something that you would take care of if this is the right fit for the person.
That's correct. And now the only thing is we don't have a lot of time. So there are some families that just, even if we wanted to, we can't do this in time because it's just so much work that needs to happen between now and getting this out of our hands so that it gets recorded before February.
I know you had a personal deadline you had mentioned to me that you were.
Yeah, I'm pretty much making a cutoff at the end of this month for anybody who wants to do work with us. If you come to me in January, I probably won't have the bandwidth to take on more cases because all of the work that we're doing for clients now, that work will be done in January. And for that to go out before February, we don't want to. We want to make sure we can deliver on the cases that we have that we've been hired on. We don't want to jeopardize those clients. So at the end of the day, these are the big points to consider. Are you going to sell the property? If you are, then do nothing. Speak to your children. If they're going to sell the property, do nothing. But if you're not going to sell, your kids are not going to sell, everybody's pretty sure about that, then we got to look at what's the right decision. Should we put it in a trust? Should we gift it? Should we create an LLC?
Okay.
Are we more concerned about capital gain tax? Are we more concerned about property tax? Are we concerned about the estate tax? So these are all the things that we'll talk about when we do the meeting.
Awesome. Wow, you covered a lot. Thank you so much. This is super helpful, and I think you are doing a great job in letting people know that they have options, but they can't really just sit around. They definitely have to start moving.
Yeah, and frankly, they should have already started moving. So yeah, it's a really narrow window, and it's worth. What I recommend is if you're not sure, reach out. We could do a consultation at least and tell you, these are things that you could consider. And you did a consult. The worst is you'll pay for the consult and you'll know what to do. And for some people, that's all they want is, let me know if I should do anything. And for other people,
are you comfortable mentioning how much you're charging for the consult? Or
yeah, so we're charging $500 for the consult. What we're asking people to do is send us your property tax statement. We need to see the property tax statement. If we see the property tax statement, then we could run the numbers and we will pull the deeds for your home. Once I know the address, I could pull the deeds. We'll look at the deed history. We'll look at the property tax statement. We'll do all of that work before the meeting so that during the meeting, we're just going through the numbers and I'm kind of taking you through questions about what the plans are. And then we come up with some advice immediately on these are the options that you should do. These are the options you shouldn't do. For some people, they get an answer right away. For some people, I give them two options and then they have to go home and think about what's the best one for them. So we've done it all different ways, but we're charging $500 for that consult. Takes about an hour. Whether you have one property or more than one property, usually it could take about an hour to go through that analysis.
And we'll definitely throw up your number and any other way. What is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
The website or our phone number is probably the easiest way. You can actually book a consult directly through the website.
Awesome.
There's a button on our website where you could just pick a date and just sign up on the website directly.
I'll be sure to add that for sure in the video.
Cool.
Well, Lala, thank you so much. This is super
Sure.
helpful, and I'm looking forward to coming and meeting you. I feel like I need to come and see you pretty soon now. So, and I do want to come talk to you. Maybe next year we can talk about some more topics. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks for having me and thanks for covering this topic. It's important for people.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks.